Look, moving on to obviously Dublin Monaghan. It was obviously closer than we felt it would be. I look at hats off to Monaghan, not trying to patronise them here, but they're an absolute phenomenal. Conor McManus turned back the years. McAnespy for Monaghan, like some couple of buttes of points, and then one beautiful pass going in.
The way Dublin set up, and the way Dublin set up again, Monaghan created so many chances in the first half. You know, they had so many good goal chances. You know, and McAnespy went through at one stage, a brilliant move off the shoulder, broke through a tackle, went through 3v1. O'Hanlon's inside him. If he just slips to O'Hanlon, it's a goal. You know, and like Dublin sort of, it worried me how open Dublin were in that first half. Really, really concerned me how open they were. You know, and like if they play like that against Kerry, they could be blown out of the water. Like they genuinely could be, like, you know, because
you could say the same thing about Kerry though. Kerry were wide open the first half.
This is the flip side of it, you know. Yeah. This is the flip side of it, and that both teams will probably set up in a very, very similar way. So it could become an All-Ireland final where, you know, one for the purists, where it could become a shootout, you know.
But like obviously, like you're going into 60 minutes here. Monaghan are well in that game, Stevie. Like, you know, where like it's just, where do you think, like, you know, the last 2 minutes, where do you think it went wrong? Not went wrong, but I suppose Dublin's impact off the bench probably came through in the end.
Yeah, impact of the bench, but very similar to the Kerry game. Very, very similar to the Kerry game. They got the press on the kick-out. You know, they put Beggan under serious pressure. You know, they won a couple of kick-outs in a row. Jack McCaffrey, there was an interesting substitution where they replaced, who did they take off for McCaffrey? Actually, took a forward off and brought McCaffrey on and just changed up a little bit, you know, the way they were playing. Paddy Small just maybe created a few more runners coming from deep. But I don't think we can underestimate the impact of Brian Fenton in this game. I thought Brian Fenton was absolutely magnificent, and he was back to relatively his old best. You know, Fenton for me has been generationally one of the best midfielders we've seen over the last, you know, 20 odd years or whatever, and he's just a phenomenal specimen of an athlete. Brilliant footballer. The scores he kicked as well, you know, with such little backlift as well. And one of them, I think there was one of them just right under
they needed them, Stevie. You know, there were two massive scores in the last 10 minutes. Oh boy,
big score, big man for the big occasion, you know, and him coming back into a bit of form, you know, was obviously a huge advantage for them at the weekend. And listen, look, you know, Colin Pascal stepped up this year. He's really stepped up. Costello as well has stepped up. You know, these are lads who probably have been around the panel and who haven't really set the world on fire. But an interesting one though, Enda, in the first half, whenever Scully got the black card, made him come back on and then brought him off then, you know, a substitution. And I think that was a big statement from a discipline point of view, you know, that you can't do those things, you know. That was a big statement from Dublin, that, or from Desi, you know.
Yeah, like they obviously brought Kilkenny on for him then, like Kilkenny coming on so early. Is it, you obviously feel like Kilkenny's just, you know, he's been one of the best footballers the last 10 years. I do trying to finish with their strongest team here. Maybe, I don't know, has he dipped in form in training, or it's a hard one to know, because to me Kilkenny would have been one of their kind of 3-4 leaders in their pomp, and like he's still relatively young. He's even 30 yet. He's 30 this year, I think, so he's still in his prime, really.
He's played a lot of football. He's a lot of miles on the clock as well. And maybe it is a question of you know, Dublin always do like to bring impact off the bench. You bring an experience in, you're bringing power, physicality, strength, you know, scoring threat as well, you know, and obviously you have Mannion there as well. You have Dean Rock's experience. You know, you have a huge amount of options. And that's the big thing, and it's probably the one thing we probably didn't discuss when we were talking about Derry and Derry, was maybe Derry's bench, you know, that maybe they haven't really given an awful lot of opportunities to their substitutes this year, and maybe that just came back to haunt them as well, you know, not having that strength and depth, like, but it's something that this Dublin team obviously do have, you know, particularly when you look at some of the names on the bench, and even the likes of, it's important to note as well, like Craig Dass is in the bench for Dublin. Like Craig Dass won an club medal with his club Kilmacud playing midfield, you know, and had a really, really good player, real good player, and would probably get into, you know, the starting lineup in 26, 27 counties in Ireland, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, they have a serious strength and depth, like, and I think towards the end of the game, Monaghan just probably ran out a bit of puff, but I certainly do believe, Enda, that one of Dublin's greatest strengths is their ability to press a team. They went after Begging at that time when they went sort of with a full press, and they get the zone on, you see, and then when they have the zonal press on, they nearly have you penned in because they're so athletic, they're so strong physically, they've got so much pace, they trust themselves at the back. They trust the likes of Mick Fitz, even though he is, around a long time now. But they trust these guys in 1v1 situations, Andy, so they're not afraid to go after teams. So, listen,
It's
they're
all right.
they've,
Go on, sorry.
no, I was just going to say that they certainly at the weekend, particularly in that last, 10 minutes, showed that they certainly have a fair degree of their mojo back this year.
It's all right to press the kick out when you're confident in your middle third. I just don't think Kerry, I'll go back to the Kerry game here now, sorry, but I don't think Kerry have that confidence in that middle third in terms of, do you really want the opposition to be going long here? In terms of, when I look at Dublin's middle third here, like these are you have obviously Howard, John Small, Fenton, McCarthy, these are all good fielders of the ball here, so I think you're right. I think one thing I will say about the team that started the last day for Dublin, the balance starting Paddy Small wing forward was a strange one to me, Stevie. In terms of he's not a wing forward, he's not a traditional wing forward at all. He's more of a playmaker. Maybe if you want to try him at 11, but that kind of role of they had, so their half forward line was Scully, Mannion, and Paddy Small, which was really really strange to me, to be honest with you. Buckler was obviously he's injured here, but that balance to me is all wrong.
Paddy Small is certainly a player that I would prefer closer to goal. He's got that physicality and power, obviously, to go past the man too. But no, just looking at their team, outside of Scully, that he's probably the one natural wing forward that you would probably call. That they have. It's an area that they've used so many different players in this year. He obviously fancies Sean Budler. He's come on the scene. I think Sean Budler actually started at wing back when he first came into the team. If I'm correct, wing forward, wing back. He's playing at 11 now. But look, the way Dublin play, the flexibility in their game. They all trust each other. They've got great trust among the whole squad. They've great trust in all their players. And I do feel that economically and systematically they've come back to their old way of that process football, and when they're in possession of the ball, they're not kicking as many fucking wild shots, they're not kicking as many wild wides. So yeah, look, it's going to be a seriously good final. Just from a novelty point of view, obviously I would love to have seen Dublin play Derry. To see the guys that Derry have made since the National League Division 2 National League final, and I think it's been the first time ever in the history of the GA that two Division 2 teams would have come to the final.
I could be wrong here, Stevie, but I'm not sure has a Division 2 team in recent past won it. I'm not going to go back to the 90s here. No. Certainly in the last 20 years, the Division 2 team has not won it.
I think you're right. Since the restructuring of the National Leagues, I don't think a Division 2 team has won it. I need to check, obviously, statistics to check that, but you could be right. I know there is a statistic out there saying that. So it is. It could be another groundbreaking moment for Dublin.
This is it. Obviously. Look at we're talking about obviously the Dublin a lot of, you have to give Monaghan their flowers here as well. I just in terms of looking at, Corey went back to the old kind of old and trusted, the two youths in midfield. Conor McCarthy was fantastic. Conor McManus at the tender age of 35. One of the scores in the second half where he came on the loop and just kicked it effortlessly. It was
a real textbook, wasn't it? It was a real textbook. McManus coming in the loop and kicking that sort of that lovely draw that he has with his boot, And look, listen, and there's nothing that can be said anymore about Conor McManus. He's a man for the big occasions. He's been absolutely unbelievable servant to Monaghan football. I know there was a bit of talk after the game with his body language and how he looked, and the fact he came back onto the field and had photographs of the family and stuff. Was that the swan song? Was that the final game that he's going to play in Monaghan colours? And it'll be sad if it is, because he's a player that I've always loved watching. And Manzi was probably the first. He was probably one of the very first players. When we talk about the V cuts or the backdoor cuts, that all these players are performing now, the Con O'Callaghan's, the Cliffords of this world are performing. Like Manzi was doing them, 10 years ago, when no one had ever heard of them. His movement off the ball was sensational. His ability to kick scores from a standing spot, wonderful scores. I remember one in particular in Oma when they beat Tyrone in Oma, and it was just one of the scores of the season that year from away under the terrace on the sideline. A wonderful, wonderful score, and that's McManus in a nutshell. He was just the man for the big occasion, even from a set piece, free kick, super reliable. Super reliable, and there's not much more can be said about him. I think over the two semi-finals, we certainly seen the likes of McManus, McGuigan, Clifford, Con, an era of really, really high talented full forwards.
Like we say, Monaghan did obviously Monaghan got a lot of things right here, Stevie. What's in terms of Dublin really struggled to break. Now, obviously the conditions probably played a small factor in it, but Monaghan got a lot of things right here.
No, 100%. But I do think there was an element of what Dublin did as well in this. I think that I was shocked that Dublin conceded the kickouts in the first half. I was quite shocked at that. I didn't think that Dublin. I just feel Dublin get a lot of energy from pressing the team. They get a lot of energy, and I don't know if it was they were afraid maybe early of Beggin's sort of long kickouts over the top and maybe hurting them or whatever. But certainly, and I think that Dublin dropping off the kickout, I think what it did was it gave Monaghan a bit of confidence. Because it meant then that they could have a long bout of possession, uncontested really, and that gives you confidence in a game. It lets you grow into the game. If you're not winning the first couple of kickouts, all of a sudden you're under the pump. You're feeling the heat a little bit. But certainly for me, it was strange that Dublin did that so early in the game, nearly like shadow boxing early, and then cranking it when they had to. But I would love to see them. What would have happened if Dublin had a sort of maybe went after the kickouts, maybe from minute one? Would it have been a different type of a game?
Yeah, like under Desi, they seem to be definitely are more conservative under Desi than they were. Like under Jim, that was just a given. They go after, especially after free, they just go after every single kick out, and really once they had the foot in your throat, like that's it. Like they're like I think one of Jim's saying was you don't wrestle with a pig. So so like once they had the foot down in that throat, man, they are not letting you up. And as down through the years, they used to remember they used to obviously beat teams by 12, 13 points more.
Yeah.
They were absolutely relentless. Absolutely relentless. So it's I think look at like as you said there, it gave Monaghan more confidence. They grew into the game, and geez, I tell you, people on the hill. I know people that went to the game, TV on the hill. People on the hill, they're nervous. Like the atmosphere, the ground was very, very nervous going into the 60th minute. Like on the hill, they did not know which way this was going here. They weren't very sure at all.
Yeah, no. When Monaghan got the 12 all, you were sort of thinking, Jesus, this could be on, but it was. Just those couple of scores in a row. Like Dublin just have that. They've got that ability, though. Those little small sort of blitzkrieg moments, where they go after a team and they hit maybe like 1-2, 1-3, and what did they finish with? Did they finish with 1-3 unanswered? Did they know? No more, no.
It was 117-13, so it would have been 1-3 unanswered. I'd say. Fenton's two scores there, man, were absolutely huge. No.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. I think it went 15. I think it went 15-12, and then McCarron scored a brilliant point. They make it 15-13, and then they hit 1-2 late. Then so out of the last what 7, 6, 5, 6, 7 out of the last 7 or 8 scores, Dublin get 1-5.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It certainly didn't reflect the game. It's and obviously flatter Dublin at the end here. But no, look, good. Look, at not trying to patronise Monaghan here, but for Vinnie Corey's first season, it was absolutely phenomenal. What he's done with that squad of players. So hopefully, year 2 they can build on that. Fine.